Good evening, Phillies fans, and welcome back to the Fighting Final, the regular season finale of the Fighting Final. Here on the It's a Rap Sports Network, your boy Matty B on the call, and the Phillies survive in the probably one of the most boringest games since spring training. Today, 2-1 in extra innings as they take the series from the Twins, their 39th series win of the season. And now it's we wait to see who will emerge out of the Cub-Padre series as we'll get ready for Red October here in about a week or 6 days, next Saturday. It's hard to really kind of break this thing down because it was so boring and it had no energy and it had absolutely nothing at stake. But the Phillies, I guess, in a if you want to pull something good, is the fact how they won the game. Where they want a sacrifice fly. I cannot believe that I'm getting excited about a sacrifice fly, but Nick Castellanos delivers a sac fly in the bottom of the 10th inning, scoring Harrison Bader for the go-ahead win, or the run and the win, the walk-off win. 162 up, 162 down, as we are come to the end of another regular season here on the Fighting's Final, our fourth now in the books. So today's show will be primarily looked at. I guess we'll talk Chris Sanchez because that was a really good effort again today by him as he continues to encourage all that confidence that we're going to need and have in him heading into the playoffs. And then scoreboard watching as MLB, a lot of these races came down to the final day and some shockers out there. We'll get into some of that. And we'll also talk AAA World Series. That's right. It went down last night in Las Vegas. For those of you that care about that thing, we'll talk about that. Officially ending the 2025 MLB minor league season last night in Las Vegas. And then, of course, we'll look ahead. We'll look ahead at what the confidence level of this team should be and what confidence level of us as fans should be as the Phillies await another opportunity. We finally made it. We got here. We're at the precipice, the doorstep. And now it all matters. Now everything counts. Now every pitch, we hang on it all as we arrived at that magical time of the year, baseball playoffs. And we'll talk about the It's a Rap Sports Network and how the Fighting's Final will be brought to you through the postseason, because it's a little bit of a change on how we do things in a regular season, for those of you that don't know. So all those things we'll get into here on the program today. So let's get it going. But before I do, remember, we're at the beginning of a brand new week here on the It's a Rap Sports Network, and that means it's a whole nother schedule. And here's your schedule for this week. We are coming down the home stretch of our very busy Sunday. You got the Fighting's Final with me, and then later on tonight we'll talk Final Word. Tomorrow you got the Final Word. You got the Final Word on Wednesday, and then or Tuesday, and then Wednesday we get into a little bit more of the weeds, and we wrap things up on Saturday with the Phillies in the NLDS versus whoever, and Penn State versus UCLA on the Happy Valley Huddle. So please check your local listings for times in your area as we're beginning another great week here on the network. And so let's get into this game. The Phillies' anemic offense that, I'm not going to get into the weeds on this game. I'm not going to start talking about how the Phillies were, anemic once again, 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position. One of their runs today was a homer. Their 211th home run of 2025, an amazing number, which also scares the hell out of me. But we're not going to really talk about this game in general. I think we just need to look at little pieces of it. And Chris Sanchez is the first piece we're going to lop off here. 5.5, 2 hits, no runs, 8 strikeouts, 60 pitches through those 5.5. A little elevated. Finishes the season with a 2.50 ERA and goes off on a standing ovation as he walked off the field to end his regular season. And by all indications and by all accounts, Chris Sanchez is going to be the man on this pitching staff as we head into October. There's no doubt about that. And if he can't be the man, then we got problems. But I think the confidence should be there in him to fulfill that duty. He's been pretty consistent throughout the season, and I'm not concerned about the pitching staff heading into the playoffs. That's not where this thing is going to be decided. It's not. It's going to be all about the offense and what they're able to do. So the pitching, to me, is it in the best position it can be heading into the postseason? No. Without Zach Wheeler, of course, it's not. with an up and down Nola, up and down Suarez, and an up and down Luzardo? Of course it's not. But is it in the worst position? Are we one of the bottom feeders of the playoff teams when it comes to pitching? We're not. We're kind of right there at the top middle part of that. So I'm not worried about their pitching. And Chris Sanchez today, in a game that meant nothing, and I'm actually surprised he pitched. It had to be because they got to keep him in a rhythm. It was to keep him, on schedule in order to have him pitch. But this game definitely had a vibe of a spring training game. It was like the first spring training game of 2026. A boring-ass baseball game to watch, especially as the Eagles game was sort of unfolding. You had to tune into this thing and you had to try to stay awake. And we'll get into the Eagles tonight, because there's a lot to talk about there. But the confidence level on Chris Sanchez heading into the postseason should be at an all-time high, and it deserves to be. He's pitching every bit like the pitcher we're going to need. And today was no difference, as he was masterful and untouchable through his 5.5 innings of work. They did give up that. I'm not really worried. I'm not worried about Chris Sanchez, and I'm not worried about the pitching in general. Ricky Deal says, "Go Phillies." Yep, let's go Phillies. Now, offensively for the Phillies today, again, the Phillies are going to get a break. I'm going to give them a break today. I'm not going to jump on any of this stuff. We are going to, tonight on the Final Word, go over some numbers for the season. We're going to talk about how they did in certain categories and how I am concerned offensively for this team. But I'm not going to sit here and try to break down a game, on the 162nd game of the season, that meant nothing to the Phillies and nothing to the Twins. I'm not going to break that down. There was really nothing going on for the Phillies offensively, as they were befuddled today by the Twins starting pitcher. The hell is that? What's his name? Woods Richardson went 6 innings, gave up 1 hit, and struck out 9. Now, if there's anything negative or concerning to pull from his line, it's 9 more strikeouts today by the Phillies. There was a time in this season that the Phillies really had the strikeouts under control. They were really not striking out all that much. Matter of fact, I think there was a point back in June, maybe even into July, where they were striking out less than 7 times a game, which still is hard for me to say that that's positive, but there was a time where it was down. I long for those carefree days, because the Phillies have been striking out in bunches over the past 6 weeks. Their team strikeouts per game are now well over 9. And again, looking past this game specifically and into the playoffs, that is not good. The era of baseball, and no one cares about strikeouts anymore, and it's part of the game. I'm never going to buy that. I don't care how popular or how accepted it is. I don't accept it, and I'm not buying it. You're striking out over 9 times a game. You're literally giving the opposition 1 turn through your lineup of no production. So you're limiting your offensive ability by a whole 3 innings almost. So you're never going to sell me on strikeouts being an acceptable part of the sport from an offensive standpoint. Of course, from the pitching side, you want high strikeouts, but your team striking out over 9 times a game is not going to work for me. And today, the Phillies struck out on their average of 9. So if there's anything critical to take from that, it's, again, heading into the postseason where every pitch matters, every swing matters, every at-bat matters. We're striking out at a 9 times a game clip. So not good there. Not good there at all. Rest of the offense for the Phillies today, it's not even worth me kind of going over. Trey Turner did return to the lineup for the finale, so I guess all systems are go. He was 0 for 2. Finished the season batting .304. Led off for his Phillies team leading 96th time in 2025. Is the Phillies, one of the keynotes of the season when we dissect this whole thing at the end will be that they finally figured out that Kyle Schwarber is not a leadoff hitter and that Trey Turner is. And so his 96th time leading off in 2025 as he returns to the lineup and goes 0 for 2. Otto Kemp, hopefully for not the last time in a Phillies uniform in 2025. He went 0 for 2 on the day. Schwarber was 0 for 3. Bryce Harper. And again, I'm tongue-in-cheek about this because obviously I know the answer, but are people starting to forget, or are you starting to forget Bryce Harper plays for this baseball team? And I mean that. Honestly, what has Bryce Harper done productively for this team in 2025? We gave him a pass last year because of the injury, coming back from that. But what's the excuse? What's Big Al's excuse emporium shoveling for Bryce Harper in 2025? I'm really want to know, because he has been a non-factor for this baseball team all season long. And if he continues to be a non-factor for this baseball team heading into the postseason, there's going to be some problems, because you need Bryce Harper. You need that $330 million contract to actually produce something in the postseason. So where's the confidence level on Bryce heading into the postseason? He's been a non-factor for the entire season. He pops up every now and again with a couple home runs, a couple missed opportunities on defense. He doesn't know how to execute a rundown properly. But other than that, what has Bryce Harper done relevant for this baseball team in 2025? What has he done that has jumped off the stat sheet at you? What has he done that has jumped off anything for you in 2025? And again, the confidence level that you have in Bryce Harper delivering in the postseason, it has to be in question. Bohm, who finished the season on an absolute tear, did get one more hit today, 1 for 4. Harrison Bader, I guess the story of two halves of his time here. The first half being good, and then the second half kind of cooling down. He went 0 for 1. Or no, yeah, he was a pinch runner today and scored the run. He didn't even play. I'm sorry, he was a pinch runner. That's right. He came in the 10th there as a ghost runner. Brandon Marsh 0 for 2. Weston Wilson 0 for 1. Nick Castellanos with the big RBI there late. Max Kepler had the only offensive firepower for the Phillies, as he was 1 for 3 with a home run. Ending a very frustrating year for Kepler, who did turn it on at the end. And all the positivity around Kepler's resurgence at the end of the season for the last 7-8 weeks, and all the positive, I think he's hit 7 home runs since the end of August or mid-August, something like that. He finishes the season with a .216 batting average. So that's how bad he was for the most part, betterment of 2025. That even as hot as he was at the end, and there was some limited playing time situations going on there too, but he finishes the season with a .216 batting average. But again, I think he's one of the players that you're going to need to lean on a little bit in the postseason, and I think maybe he's brought his game to a point where you can. Bryson Stott 1 for 3, and Marshawn 0 for 2. Garrett Stubbs got in the game late as well, and he did have one at bat, and he grounded out weakly to end the game, or not to end the game, but to end his at bat. Cody Clemens 0 for 4 today against his old team. As James Outman 0 for 4. I mean, it's just he struck out 4 times. Well, so all this kind of adds into a very boring game 162. Everyone in that stadium just had that vibe about them that they just wanted not to be there anymore and just move on to the playoffs. And of course, you had to go into extra innings, and I'm sure the umpires were thrilled too. A lot of those guys are not working the postseason, so this was their final game, and they were probably like, "Are you serious? A game that means nothing. We got to hang around for another inning." So there you have 2-1. And then, Kerkering gets credit with the win as he comes on in that 10th inning and pitched a pretty clean inning, struck out the side. So that's a good sign. You put Kerkering in a high leverage situation. Yes, granted, it's last game of the year, but still it's extra innings. It was a position where you needed him to perform, and he pitched well. Because like it or not, and I know a lot of people don't like it, and I'm one of them, Kerkering has to pitch in the late innings. That's what kind of a pitcher he is. And if you're not using him in the late innings, and I understand why you wouldn't, you're doing him a disservice. Because I'm telling you, Kerkering has that ability. He hasn't shown it, but one of these days he's going to figure it out. And if it's not in this uniform, it'll be in a different uniform with another team. But pitching him prior to the 8th inning, though accepted and understood, I think overall is not good, because that's what kind of a pitcher he is. He's got that kind of stuff you need. You need that stuff in the late innings, because I'm not going to feel David Robertson coming in the 8th inning. I'm not going to feel Mazaya coming in, or whatever, Tim Mazaya coming in the 8th inning. I'm certainly not going to feel, if they ever bring him back, Jordan Romano coming in the 8th inning. So Kerkering is the guy, and nor am I going to feel Tanner Banks coming in the 8th inning. So Kerkering is going to have to figure it out, and today was a really good positive step for him. And all that equals the Phillies winning 2-1. And now we sit and we wait for the worst part of the baseball season, and that is to get to find out who the opponent will be and get our postseason going. But a big shout out to all those out there that chimed in all season long. You guys know who you are, and all the hosts, obviously. And I'm gonna publish the final standings of our host 2025 host standings. I did not win. I was actually came in third. Kind of fell apart there at the end, but Mike Laro takes it in 2025. Even though I did finish with the most games, which of course that's every year. But with the most games, it means I got to win more to have a higher winning percentage. I did not. I think I finished like 10 games over 500, but that was not enough as I fell in the standings. And so congratulations to Mike Laro for taking the 2025 Fightins Final host regular season's standings. And I think he won last year, if I'm not mistaken. So Mike might be on a little bit of a dynasty here. Pat Bernard came in dead last at 13-12. But to Pat's credit, he fell off there at the end because he couldn't broadcast. So we don't know where Pat would have finished. So, but 13-12 is what he finished, and that is the worst record of any of us. So I'll publish those at the end of the show. Let's get to the Broad Street bottom line. All right, my Broad Street bottom line today. The guests have arrived. We've taken their coats. We've had the hors d'oeuvres. We've now enjoyed our appetizer. It's time finally to get down to the main event and the main entree. And that starts on Saturday, October 4th, as the Phillies will host game 1 and 2 of the NLDS against either the Cubs or the Padres, as they'll do battle this week to determine that. And now we can get to the business at hand. We can get to the business that we've all been waiting for since February. Since February 12th, I think, is when pitchers and catchers reported. It's been all about getting to this point of the season. Phillies finished with, I think, was it 96 wins on the year? One better than they had last year. Was that what it was? 96? Let me see. Got my little stat board here. Yeah, 96 and 66. 30 games over 500 for the Phillies. They wrap up the month of September 17-8. Second best month they've had all season to go along with their 19-9 May. A very good surge at the end of the year that propelled them into that position. And a lot has to be accounted there and given credit to. And we're going to get to where this is it. This is where it all matters. This is where, talk is cheap and now it's time to perform. And yes, it is. Because I don't think there was anybody out there that really doubted the fact that the Phillies wouldn't find their way into the postseason somehow. Winning the division for the second straight year is great. Getting that first round bye is bad. It is. Having that first round bye is good. I don't want to hear any more about the myth of not having to do that. But now it's time to get it going, man. And we will be here to cover that. And now it's time to find out if this team, at least for one more time, finally can get over the hump. I know they're not going to regress because they're not in the wild card, so they can't on paper regress any further in 2025 because regression would have been losing in the wild card and they didn't make it there. So, can they advance and can they finish the deal? There's a lukewarm sentiment out there in some of the more, I guess I can use the word liberal of the Homer sects out there that accept success as making the playoffs or accept what did I hear this morning? Accept success as being entertained by this baseball team because there's been so many years that this team was dead in the water come June. There's certain liberal Homer fans out there that actually think that that's success, right? That being entertained by this team or being having this team take you on a ride through September, that equals success. Now, there's other of us out there that measure success in those golden statues that they give out at the end of the year for the one team left standing to hold it all. That those of us out there that accept success only in those trophies are starved of it. 2 times over 143 years is a little light. In contrast, the New York Yankee faithful, they've won 27 of them. So for those of us out there that accept success as championships, we've arrived at our moment. And it all begins now. So all the talk, all the controversy, all that can end. And now we can get to the business of postseason baseball, because that's what we signed up for. And that's why we're here. And that's why we're assembled on this day and every other day. And that's why over the last 6 months, we carried you through this season. And I want to thank everybody that was along for the ride from the very beginning. And some of you have been here since like 2022. For the special thanks to you guys. But when we do get the playoffs rolling next week here on the Fightins Final, we're going to do things a little bit differently. So typically you see us on one-on-one type platforms. We come at you, either me, somebody else, whatever. Postseason, we do it in tandem. So there's going to be a partnership of us here. There's going to be a group of us, two. There can only be two, an apprentice and a master. But we're going to do two of them. And starting next week, you'll see. I don't have that schedule out yet. We're still working through that. I'm going to tell you that I will not be part of Game 1 or Game 2. I will not be in town, so you won't see me for Game 1 or Game 2, but I'll be on the back end of the NLDS. But that's how we're going to do it for the NLDS heading into and then beyond NLCS, hopefully, and into the World Series. So that's how we're going to roll things for the postseason. So I hope you guys are here for it. So there's my Broad Street bottom line. Is the guests have arrived. The coat's been put away. We've had our hors d'oeuvres and appetizers. Now it's time to sit down and eat the main entree. So let's do it. MP says, I just came here to say bye-bye, Mets. That's right. The Mets and Reds both lost today. So by virtue of that, the Reds are in. Reds are in, and the Mets complete an epic failure, an epic collapse in 2025. That might be leaving a lot of them people with their heads shaking, because I don't know how you justify that, man. With all the money they spent offensively. Now, there was some pitching problems all season long. Pitching you went into 2025 a little bit light with the pitching because you overextended yourself with the offense. But did those offensive pieces, did they really click? Juan Soto comes to mind, obviously. Did he really fit well there? And going forward in the future with Juan Soto, again, I don't know anyone's going to take them off their hands, but do the Mets try to get productive or creative and maybe move along Soto or try to move along Soto? What's Pete Alonso's future with the Mets? So we'll have what is it? Is it a mutual option next year, or is he just a straight UFA? I think he signed a 1-year deal, right? So not that I'm upset about it, of course, but I would have actually liked to seen the Mets get in. I want to put that thing to bed once and for all too about the Mets, but I can't win if you don't. I mean, you can't get in the playoffs, you don't make it, and the Mets did not. So see you later, Mets. Steve says, let's go. I called it when the Mets signed Soto. I told my girl Soto wasn't enough. He wasn't enough because you need pitching to go along. Listen, I would take the Mets offensively over a lot of teams. It just wasn't balanced. It wasn't balanced out at all. You look at the Phillies, in contrast. The Phillies have, on paper, a very strong offense that never lives up to its expectations, and they have a pitching staff that just finds ways to get it done. And that's really what it comes down to. And the Mets pitching just non-existent, man. They definitely have to look at that in the postseason. I said they weren't going to make the playoffs, so because she's a Mets fan. Well, she can root for the Phillies. That's what I would do. The real reason why they lost is because they let it's not. Well, yeah, I mean pitching, yeah. They just didn't have enough. But there's listen, one season ends, another one begins, and we'll have plenty of time to talk that, come November in the offseason. And yes, should you revel in the fact that the Mets did not make the playoffs? 100%. But pump the brakes. We haven't done anything yet. All right. This could be a one and done situation too. Don't forget. I mean, granted, it won't be the Mets we got to face, but we got our own hills to climb right now that we got to focus on that before we start, running around. Because at the end of the day, Mets didn't make the playoffs, great. But if the Phillies don't close the deal, where's the difference? Where's the difference there? We both failed. So yes, I do love the fact, but let's get it going. The OMG vibes. So let's concentrate on the business at hand. That's to win the World Series. So the Mets are out, Reds are in. It would be the Reds and Dodgers and the Padres and the Cubs. So the Dodgers and Reds series winner will meet the Brewers, and then, of course, the Padres and Cubs winner will meet the Phillies. Out in the American League, some drama unfolding as another collapse, maybe not as epic as the Mets, but the Detroit Tigers, who had a stranglehold on that AL Central for the betterment of the entire season, end up losing out the division to the once stellar Cleveland Guardians. Remember that conversation back in, I think it was around late June, mid-July, when the Tigers were like 17 and a half games ahead of the Guardians, and everyone kept the Stephen Kwan and Class A thing. Everyone just assumed the Guardians would be sellers at the deadline, even though they were only like 5 or 6 games out of the wild card at that time. But everyone kept saying, "Oh, the Phillies were linked to getting those two guys," and I kept saying, "Well, wait, hang on, man. The Guardians aren't done. They're like 5 games out of the wild card, and we're sitting here in June. Relax." But they were like 17 games out of first place. Well, they're not 17 games out of first place anymore, and they're not in the wild card. They are your AL Central champions. As another similar situation unfolded today, where both the Guardians and Tigers lost, but by virtue of that and the tiebreaker, the Guardians are your AL Central champs. So the Tigers did qualify. They are making the playoffs as a wild card, but the Guardians complete an epic comeback and take the division from the Detroit Tigers, setting up the American League. So there were some races to keep an eye on, and we're pretty much done with. And now it's time to look at the postseason. So let's take a look around the bases today to get you caught up on all of it. All right, let's go around the bases on the final day of the regular season. It was 3-2 Yankees over the Orioles. It was 8-0 White Sox over the Nationals. White Sox finished the season with 102 losses. The Red Sox beat the Tigers 4-3. It was 4-0 Giants over the Rockies. 9-2 Royals over the Vegas Athletics. I'm going to call them Vegas now. I know they're not in Vegas yet, but I'm going to get used to it. So the Vegas A's lose today 9-2. 76 and 86 were the A's this year. Very sneaky bad. Only 10 games under 500. And with a wealth of minor league talent all over that organization, a new stadium in a new city, it ain't going to be long. When are they going to be playing in Vegas? 27, 28-ish? That's about the time the Vegas or the A's will be back in relevancy. I'm telling you, it ain't going to take long. It's not. They are a sneakily good bad team right now, and they just got abundance of young talent in that organization. And the Las Vegas Aviators played last night in the AAA, what they call it, the AAA National Championship. Let's call it the AAA World Series. They lost to the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, which is the Marlins AAA affiliate, in that championship game. So the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp are the 2025 AAA world champs, as they won the World Series last night in a 1-game series against the Aviators. So you're looking at potential preview of the 2030 World Series between the Marlins and the Vegas A's, I guess. But Jacksonville, if you remember, beat out the Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs by a half a game in the first half of the 2025 AAA season. And by virtue of that, they won the first half. So they hung around to see who would win the second half. It was the Scranton Wilkes-Barre Red Rail Riders, the Yankees AAA team. They beat the Rail Riders in the International League Finals, and they went up against the Vegas Aviators in the championship game. So keep an eye out. And I'm going to start getting used to calling on the Vegas A's, even though I think they'll be in Sacramento again next year. It was 13-4 Blue Jays over the Rays, 6-2 Astros over the Angels. The Mets, I mean, listen, you got eliminated on the final day. It happens, but they got shut the hell out 4-0 on their final game. A game where all they really, they needed help, which they got from the Brewers. They just had to win it, and they couldn't even score a goddamn run. I guess offense doesn't really do it all the time, but they fall 4-0. And I'm sorry, the Guardians did win. They came back and won in 10 innings, 9-8 over the Rangers. They were down in this game late, And that's how they ended up clinching. But weren't they going to clinch either way if both lost? Weren't they percentage points higher than the Tigers? It was the Brewers 4-2 over the Reds and 12-4 Padres over the Diamondbacks, 6-1 Dodgers over the Mariners. It was 4-1 Braves over the Pirates, 2-0 Cubs beat the Cardinals. And there is no ESPN game tonight as we have finished up the regular season, so there's no Sunday night game tonight. And I think that's it for ESPN, right? No more? No more Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN Netflix next year? Is that what I understand it to be? Steven says, I'm happy the Astros are not in India. Yeah, got eliminated last night. So let's take a look around and let's get you ready, I guess, the best we can here as let's preview the playoffs and the wild card round. So tomorrow, it all gets going tomorrow at the first game will start at TBD, but it's going to be Detroit against Cleveland. So a little AL Central. So Cleveland can complete the collapse of the Tigers in the first round of the playoffs. So they're going to get the Tigers to start it all off. It's going to be on ESPN. Then you got the Yankees and the Red Sox tomorrow at some point as well. Another great matchup to start the playoffs. Two AL East rivals going at it tomorrow night. It's the Cubs, or it's the Padres visiting the Cubs and that's at 3:00. So they've announced those games. So that's going to 3:00 start over on ABC, and then the nightcap, I guess, is Cincinnati in LA to battle the Dodgers at 9:00 on ESPN. All three out of the four games tomorrow will be on ESPN, and one on ABC. So there's your lineup tomorrow as the wild card round will begin. The rules are pretty simple in the wild card: 3-game series, all at the home team's stadium. There is no traveling involved. It's all 3 games will be in Cleveland, New York, Chicago, in LA. Best of 2 takes the series. So we'll see how it goes. And of course, we're all going to be keeping an eye on San Diego and Chicago, how that kind of works out, because they will play the Phillies in the second round. So there's your playoff preview here as we're getting ready for the NL for the wild card round tomorrow. My World Series is Phillies versus Seattle. I could see that. I don't know if Seattle's going to survive the American League. And I guess this is more of a question we could talk about later tonight at 10:00. I don't want to belabor the point here on the post game, but we are definitely going to look at, and a point was brought up earlier today on one of the other shows, that when you look around the landscape, especially in the National League, and you look around, I guess you could also look at the landscape of the American League, what team out there that you see right now as a Phillies fan, would give the Phillies some heartburn? And I don't want to use the word scared. I'm not going to say scared, because I'm not scared of no teams, and I don't think we should be scared of any teams. But what teams out there, either National or American League, really kind of, when you look at it, you're like, maybe not the easiest road to get to the World Series. I think the Dodgers and the Brewers, could be a problem for the Phillies in the National League. And I also believe out in the American League, I know that the Tigers are reeling right now. I get that. They've been reeling for the past 2.5 months. But I still like what the Tigers have. I still like what they have offensively, and I love their pitching. So I'm not writing them off yet. The red hot Guardians right now, too. That's going to be a hell of a series, man. That's a great way to kick it off. Yankees don't really ever I just think the Yankees are just a bunch of smoke and mirrors to me. They've always been that way. I don't trust Aaron Boone's ability. There's a manager out there I trust less than Rob Thompson. It's Aaron Boone. Boston is kind of a Cinderella story, if you ask me. So we'll have to kind of take a look at all that stuff. But Red Sox going to win that series. Yeah, they probably will. No, we play. I don't think so. I don't think we do. I think we got the winner of 4 and 5, and the Dodgers Reds are 3 and 6. I think we got 4 and 5. I could be wrong, because I know I've been bouncing around with it. But let's take a look. Who do the Phillies play? Who will the Phillies play? So, let's see. Maybe it is them. Okay, so maybe it is. I could have sworn it was going to be 4 and 5. It will be the Reds and the Dodgers. Okay. Okay, so that changes some things. Reds and Dodgers. Okay. I saw a bracket like a couple of days ago or this morning that it was opposite. So Reds and Dodgers, which makes more sense because the Phillies, now you see, it doesn't make sense to me. Why would the number 1 seed, in this case the Brewers, right? Shouldn't they have the opportunity to play the 6 seed? Not the 2 seed? I don't get that. But there it is, Reds and Dodgers. All right. So, interesting. So we'll definitely be looking at that. But there you are. We got it. We got the matchup. We're set. And the playoffs are set around Major League Baseball. And again, I want to thank everybody for coming on for the ride in 2025. It was perfect. It was great. Another playoff season for the Fighting's Final. We are 4 for 4 now in bringing you playoff baseball on this postgame show. So it's going to really suck when that run ends. But we gotta look forward to the playoffs, and we gotta look forward to Saturday. Reds and Dodgers, not the Cubs and Padres. For some reason, I was thinking it was Cubs and Dodgers. Let me see this. What does this thing say? Yeah, it is. Well, yeah, we Reds and Dodgers. Yeah, okay. Yeah, not bad. All right, so Reds and Dodgers. It is. But all right, so let's wrap this up. Phillies win. Season over. Time to move on to the playoffs. Time to see who we're going to get. And Chris Sanchez, I guess, penciled in as your game 1 starter against Shohei Ohtani. This would be an interesting matchup. Steven says he'd rather see the Reds. Both would be a tough in a 5-game series. Why would you rather see the Reds? And I know exactly why you'd rather see the Reds. I don't trust the Dodgers either. Defending world champs. And Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, Muncy. You just name them, man. Dodgers, I would have wanted to face in the NLCS. Nah. I get the 5-game versus 7-game mystique. I get that. And there's travel time involved going back and forth from the coast. Yeah, I get that. Dodgers will come at you from all different directions, though, man. Dodgers are a tough opponent. They're tough. And a lot of people are going to go back to the fact that the last time we played the Dodgers out in LA, where we clinched the division, where that Ohtani was unable to, well, we couldn't touch Ohtani for 5 innings. They lifted him, and then we went off on the bullpen. But, you know, Ohtani's not coming out of a game in 5 innings in the playoffs. All right. They're going to ride him all the way. And you know that as well as I do. So you can kind of throw that theory out. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I think we could beat them. They got arms and they can shut our bats down. Liddell, Green, and Abbott. I think we could beat them, but they got arms that can shut our bats down. Yeah, and they actually did pretty well during the season. They got a good young team. I think they're missing some offensive pieces, but they do have some good pitching. So, yeah. Again, we're going to stay away from the scared word. I'm not talking about being scared of any opponents in the playoffs. It's going to be matchups right now. If you look at this thing, and how we get kind of through those things. The Dodgers don't match up well with the Phillies. And it's the X factor for me. It's the NL MVP for me. And that's not Kyle Schwarber. It's Shohei Ohtani. And sit here and tell me that he's not the MVP, and tell me that he's not the most valuable player on the Dodgers, and that he is the face of Major League Baseball. He's there for a reason. The guy's a DH, but he pitches. Came back from Tommy John surgery, and he's back to pitching. I mean, and then you tack in the Freddie Freeman stuff and the Mookie Betts stuff, and I mentioned the Max Muncy stuff, and then Pegas. He had a great second year. It's just there's a lot coming at you with the Dodgers, and the fact that they are the defending world champs. But I don't want to avoid them. If it's the Dodgers, so be it. But if you're asking me, yeah, obviously I'd want to go against the young, untested Reds, but they're hot. Reds are hot. Dodgers are kind of hot. They've been battling the Padres all season. Are they battled out, or are they just catching their breath? But matchup wise, give me the Reds. Yes, the pitching is going to come down to the pitching, the Reds pitching against Phillies offense, because I think we can keep the Reds' offense at bay with our pitching, as banged up as it is. But it's going to come down to who we can hit around better. And we'll break numbers down. We'll talk that as we move through. But I'm not going to use the word scared, maybe concerned. Mets were 38-55 in the last 93 games. Yeah. Yeah. We talked about it a little bit earlier, Steve. We talked about how, offensively, going into the season, I don't think anybody was really worried about the way they produced runs. Now, I think offensively they didn't live up to the expectations, and Soto, I think, was a bust of a year. But there was concerns about the Mets pitching going into the season. It was a rightful concern, and it really kind of let them down. And fundamental baseball. I mean, it wasn't just the pitching; it was not good pitching, inconsistent offense, and then for some odd reason they forgot how to play defense for a big stretch of games. I mean, bad mental mistakes out there. And as you mentioned, 38 and 55 over the last 93 games. It's going to be a long winter in Queens. It really is. But they got a great match. Terry Francona ain't nothing, even though they went 4-2 against the Dodgers. Even though we went, but okay. The first 3 games were against them back in April when they were hot. They were 10-0 when they came in here, 9-0 or something like that to start the season. The Phillies took 2 out of 3. Then they went out in LA, and don't forget they were without Betts and Freeman for that series. They went out in LA, and we clinched out there. Did we sweep them? No, 3 out of 4, something like 2 out of 3. But again, they lifted Ohtani in the 5th inning I think, was he no hitting the Phillies at the time or one hitting them? They lifted them in the 5th. Phillies attacked the Dodger bullpen. That's not going to happen in the playoffs. Ohtani's not coming out in 5 innings. So, yes, and we'll break numbers down. I do want to see how they did, and we'll do the same thing with the Reds. But you got to throw all that regular season stuff out the window. It's a whole new season, man. The 12 teams that are left are 0-0. And now you start from scratch. Ohtani should have been banned. For what? Sorry, but for banned for what? Letting Quintana go was pretty dumb. And Iglesias as well. But not letting people go, but not restocking the shelves. Now you got the kid out in McLean, who kind of came out of nowhere out there. He definitely going to be part of the rotation next year, but they don't really have. They're going to have to find an ace. Does Ranger Suarez start wearing? Is he going to be wearing Mets pinstripes next year? I mean, that's a pitcher the Mets should target. That's a definite pitcher they should target to bring the Queens as like your third. You put him at 3. You put McLean at 4. You start kind of building a rotation from the back middle way up. But Ranger, I could definitely see the Mets making a push for Suarez. I would have taken Quintana all season before we traded him for Luzardo. They also let Iglesias go too. Come on, whatever, man. Whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. They should have been. So he should have gotten the Pete Rose treatment. Remember, it was not him; it was his translator. And yeah. I'm sorry, man. The way gambling is looked upon in sports today, you're not going to get a rise out of me for gambling infractions. I'm just not going to do it anymore. All right, it's ridiculous. Ranger, I think he goes to the Giants or Rangers. Why not the Mets? The Mets got the deep pockets. They got the deepest pockets. The Mets throw $1 bazillion at him. He's going to New York. I don't believe that one bit. No, neither do I. But again, the whole gambling aspect of sports, I'm not going to get wrapped around all that crap anymore. But listen, the Phillies 96 wins, 30 games over 500, 96 and 66. They finished a successful 2025 season. But now it's time. Now it's time to stand and watch a 9-inning baseball game and hang on every single pitch. Now it's time to get on this team for leaving runners on scoring position and identifying it properly that we're in the first inning and you got a runner on second and third with 1 out and you can't get a run in. Now that's going to get on there. That's going to be that's going to start hurting. And now my head's going to really explode in the postseason. But we've made it. Now we got to bear down and let's do what we got to do. Can he pitch a full season? Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter right now. Who, Ranger or Ohtani? So I think the Angels and Giants get him. Oh, Ranger, I think he can go a whole season. Or Padres. Why? But why though? Why are you stuck on him heading out west? Don't forget he's a UFA. He can do what he wants. And of course, that's if the Phillies don't re-sign him. But Painter takes over for what? For Ranger? Painter? You're going to put Painter as your number 3? We're going to have a lot of time to talk about the upcoming Phillies rotation. There's a lot of, I mean, there's going to be a lot of talk surrounding Schwarber, obviously, and his future with the Phillies, but there's not going to be enough talk about the rotational problems that could exist in 2026. You know, what do you get in Wheeler coming back? What do you get in Nola coming back? Do you re-sign Ranger? And what do you do with Sanchez? You know, do you keep Sanchez buried down there as your number 3 in the rotation? Painter's another one, obviously. Is Painter ready to make that step? I know he showed signs of it, and he was purposely left in AAA to sort of work through those problems. I don't know if Painter starts the season next year as a Philly. I don't know if he does. I don't know if they leave him back down in AAA for about a month or 2. So I'm not convinced. What was Painter's ERA at the end of the season combined? Like 5.40? Something like that. I'm not really sure if he's ready to take that next step right now. So we're going to have a lot of time to talk about that. Oh, geez. I also think Castilla's gone, Crawford. I agree with that 100%. They said Alonso is going to opt out. He needs to come here. I got an idea. Pitchers Park. Put Bryce back in the outfield. Bring in Alonso while re-signing Schwarber. So we have a bunch of power hitting in the middle. So why do we got to move Bryce Harper back to right field in order to accommodate Pete Alonso? Well, why not let Schwarber walk, move Harper to DH, put Alonso at first, try to use the money that you might not have spent on re-signing Schwarber and try to find another contact hitter to sandwich in the fifth hole. Replace Castellanos with I don't even know if you got to replace Castellanos with an outfielder. I'm okay with an outfield rotation next year of Crawford, Bader, and Marsh. I can live with that. Next year. If they decide to exercise the mutual option there of Bader next year, I'm okay with that. 100%. You know, I can live with that. Again, we're going to get into the offseason stuff. Plenty of time for that. No, I don't hate anybody for saying that. You know, and here's even a hotter take for you. And it's impossible to pull off, but you know, Harper. I mean, do you dangle Harper out there on the trade wire and see if anybody bites? You know, I'm not feeling Harper right now. I'm not feeling what he provided this team in 2025. I'm just not. I know it's going to be damn near impossible to move him with that money, but maybe somebody wants to take him on. And I'm looking out west. I look at those Vegas A's, man, right? I mean, here's a team that's looking for a face of a franchise, you know. Maybe it's a year too soon for them to seriously consider maybe trading for Harper, but he's from Vegas. He could be definitely the first poster boy of the new Las Vegas A's whenever they get there. And again, I know they're not there next year, so maybe it's not quite time to look at that, but I would pitch it to them like, hey, he's Las Vegas's favorite son. You guys will eventually be in Vegas. Why not bring him on, get him acclimated? He'll look great in green and yellow. And go there. Start selling tickets with Bryce Harper as the face of your franchise. And let's talk about the plethora of young talent you got swimming all over your system in terms of young players. So I would definitely be on board with entertaining a phone call, sending Bryce Harper to the Sacramento A's, you know, in order to give them their new poster boy to sell some tickets in Vegas. But that's a take for another day. Can't keep relying on Wheeler and Nola. You can't. And that's a good point because we're seeing it starting to, you know, leak oil, right? So we got Sanchez, Luzardo. Question mark about Suarez. Will they bring him back? Painter, Griff McGarry. Yeah, you know, I want to throw his name in the hat there. which, you won't see McGarry show up as a Phillies till at least the All-Star break. And that's if he has a lights out first half of 2026. And then it have to be a lights out first half. I mean, just a perfect one. You could maybe talk about seeing Griff McGarry in the Phillies uniform at the midpoint of next year. But yeah, Andrew Painter is definitely going to be a hot topic, but is he ready? And do the Phillies think he's ready? We haven't replaced that right-handed power bat since Reese left. Yes, we have not. But do we want another power bat, man? Nooms could also replace Ranger with Gallen or Valdez. We need right-handed power. I need a right-handed contact hitter. I don't need any more power bats. We hit 221 home runs in 2025. Take 57 of them off the board for Schwarber. That's still a lot of home runs. All right. I don't need any more home runs, man. I want somebody who can put the ball in play. Bo Bichette, is he a free agent already? Give us Nick. Yeah. I'm sure they would. 1 for 1. I would do that. Nick Krutz for Bryce Harper. 1 for 1. And I would even suck and eat 60% of the remaining salary on Bryce Harper's contract. I would do that trade. Let's do it. I would do that trade in a heartbeat with the A's. 100%. I'd be so happy if I heard that. So happy. Bo Bichette, I think it would be a good bet to get. Is he a free agent? Bo Bichette? I think he's a free agent. Aiden Miller. Let's talk about that guy. Aiden Miller. Mr. Double A this year. We trade Bohm, lower the asking price, sign Suarez. We trade Bohm and lower how much lower can you get without Bohm, though? And Bohm's not getting traded because he makes too much sense to stay here for another year from a financial standpoint. Don't forget, there's a lot of uncertainty following the 2026 baseball season when it comes to the salary or the CBA. What's it going to look like? So Bohm has got another year of team control. They're not moving Bohm. I mean, if somebody calls and gives them an offer, maybe, but they're not going to move Bohm right now. He makes too much sense to them because he's under team control for at least one more year. It just doesn't make any sense. And Aiden Miller is probably going to be the heir apparent to Alec Bohm at third. And Aiden Miller probably needs another year. He's only, double A, and, potentially you're going to start the season in triple A next year. And then we go from Aiden Miller. So the timeline, I'm sure they would even have it set up in their mind how this is all going to play out. Now, they'll probably allow Alec Bohm to walk after 2026 because they're not going to re-sign him, but as a UFA. But I'm telling you, I think they're matching a timeline up between Aiden Miller and Alec Bohm's contract. And that's what I think the plan is there. And because Aiden Miller's not playing shortstop anytime soon, so he's probably going to go to third base, even though they're splitting time with him at short. But he is a third baseman by trade. So I think he's your next third baseman. And in the interim, they'll bounce around in 2026 with Sosa, Bohm, and Kemp. That's what the plan's going to be. We had the luxury of allowing Miller, Crawford, Painter, Racone, and to mature one more year without consequence. I would love a one-on-one with Dombrowski and find out what the plan was there. What's the idea? What was the bottom line about Crawford? Why did Justin Crawford not even get a look at in September? What would have been the harm there? I would really love to know. Now, Gabe Racones, I can see why. Miller, I think we're jumping the gun on Miller a little bit. I mean, give the guy another year. He's got another year he's going to be in the minors another year. There's no getting around that. Or he's going to start in the minors in 26. He's not starting with the Phillies in 26. Painter, obviously, I don't want to rush Painter back. I don't think Painter's ready for the majors at this time either. I think he's just start the season out in AAA again and then go from there. And Gabe Racones is going to be a really good story. Him and Crawford will hopefully be, I mean, all these guys will be wearing Phillies pinstripes come February, but I hope Racones does what they did with him last year. They let him hang around the Phillies for the majority of spring training and see what they can do with them. But yeah. Or let Schwarber go. Listen, guys, this post-game show is turning into a different type of program. So I am going to cut it. So if Phillies do win today, honestly, I think Styles having it. We'll see. Phillies win 2-1. Season's over. We got now the winner of the Reds-Dodgers series. I thought it was the other way around. But we got the Reds-Dodgers coming up. Playoffs start tomorrow, the wild card round. I'll be back later tonight at 10 o'clock with the final word with Matty B. Make sure you're there. We'll get more into the postseason situation with the Phillies. And, of course, we got Eagles to talk about, all that great stuff to talk about tonight on the final word. So until we talk again, you guys have a great season or a great rest of your day. From all of us, the Fight's Final, thank you for joining in for another great regular season. 162 up, 162 down. Now it's on to the playoffs. This is probably the last Fight's Final I do until about Game 3 of the NLDS because I will not be available for Game 1 and 2. So I'll see you guys on the other side of the Fight's Final somewhere in the playoffs. But until we talk again, you guys have a great couple more hours and then come back here at 10 o'clock for the final word. Guys, take care.